After the many reveals in the last chapter regarding Blast and the past 20 years, this one now focuses on Fubuki, Sweet Mask, and their short-term goals. Though Sweet Mask's plans involve Saitama directly, Fubuki's are more personal. Oh, and we also get more insight as to the idol industry and how Sweet Mask feels about his colleagues. So without any more delay, let's get to it. In this chapter titled Beauty, we get a cover showing off our lovely Fubuki with a seductive look. Holding sunglasses and smiling mischievously, the side text tells us, "Let the blizzard of enchantment blow over you." Clearly talking about Fubuki and that pose. As the chapter begins, a line of black cars drive somewhere unspecified. Inside of one of the vehicles, Fubuki is being driven by Eyelashes, one of her group members, as he asks her why she wants to go to this place. Adding even more tension, he explains that it is the entirety of their group that is going with her to that location, and not to mention, armed. This is unusual. The members normally only carry small weapons or use their bare hands. Fubuki just listens, calmly letting him know that the person they are meeting might involve some violence. For anyone who has read the webcomic, there is indeed a massive fight coming up, but is between people you would not expect. So we won't spoil the fun. Jumping instead to our city, where skyscrapers and peace are on display, one building is singled out for us. The Ikemen building. This means handsome in Japanese, and Sweet Mask is shown lounging as a businessman explains the situation to him. Already we can tell this is idol related and has nothing to do with hero work. The fact that the building is called Major Talent Agency Handsome Castle is also pretty straightforward. Also, this is likely where Sweet Mask was headed and why he missed Genos' super long-winded discussion about Saitama's feats. As the man explains that he believes this new group of 7 will make them rich, he also points out that he had them take the Pro Hero exam, just like Sweet Mask did. Not only does it give them more exposure, but it also gives them a better image in the eyes of society. At last, we are introduced to this new idol group, Bubbly Boys. They pose like heartthrobs and bad boys, smiling or trying to look cool. The agent continues by explaining that they trained for over a year, and 2 of them managed to pass the C-Class Hero exam. In other words, those 2 will be the leaders, as they are the ones who did the best and could emulate Sweet Mask's career most easily. But also, the entire group will be advertised as an idol hero group, despite only 2 getting into the C-Class. Looking even sleazier up close, the agent with curly hair and a mustache expects Sweet Mask to give them advice and tips for surviving this cutthroat entertainment industry. The man makes the mistake of saying the group could take over his spot and wonders if the idol is even listening to his speech. Little does he know, Sweet Mask actually has no interest whatsoever and probably stopped listening the moment the agent revealed the group's cringeworthy name. To top it all off, he tells the agent, "Please don't talk to me. I have no interest in phonies," and keeps staring at his phone screen. Now before we continue with this conflict between idols, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on, and smash that like button for more One Punch Man content. Now interestingly, Sweet Mask has the footage of Saitama's fight against Metal Knight security robots pulled up. Seeing it from this perspective, Saitama does look almost insane, trying to face such a massive machine. But as we know, it was a piece of cake for him. After some explosions and the smoke passed, Saitama's face appears and he is completely unharmed, along with his rank and hero name in Japanese. Sweet Mask can't believe his eyes, and who can blame him? Not many even speak to Saitama without looking down on him. Meanwhile, the agent is frantic at Sweet Mask's complete shutdown, practically begging him to be a better mentor for these newbie idol heroes. But Sweet Mask is not convinced, even if they share the same agency. His advice, as the agent was asking for, is to not talk to him. It turns out that this man is the director of the idol agency, and Sweet Mask is completely unimpressed with this development. These guys are meant to be a comparable situation to his, but they are honestly nowhere near his level, considering Sweet Mask is comparable to some S-Class heroes. With another look at the Bubbly Boys, looking disappointed or irritated with stars on their faces and checkered patterns in their hair, Sweet Mask states, "I'm in a very bad mood," and even calls out the industry itself by ordering the man to not mass produce these kinds of faces and images. One of the idols finally speaks up, wondering why Sweet Mask is being so mean and cold to them. The other behind him just looks put off and ready to start an argument with their senpai. In fact, they tell him, "If you get too cocky just because you're the favorite, we'll catch up before you know it." It's both a clear challenge and possibly a threat, depending on how far they'd go to take over his position as the most popular idol. But the catfight does not end there. The idol revealed as Chirion points out that he is confident in his skills and is on par with Sweet Mask, if only in terms of idol qualities. The agent tries to calm him down, but he continues, saying even their raw power is also pretty decent. With that, other members start chiming in to defend themselves and how they also pass the hero testing. When Shiryan points out that there is not much difference between A and C class rankings, you know this is not going to end well. But Sweet Mask shows much more restraint with humans than with monsters, so he allows him to keep insulting him. Shiryan takes that as him being worried and asks him if he would like to find out just how strong they are. But he assumes that Sweet Mask would not because he won't want to risk his pretty face. Finally, the director realizes that this is going too far and tries to stop them. The emo-looking idol states that he himself was saying the same thing, likely before this meeting started. When the dark-haired guy quotes the director's words back at him about Sweet Mask being better off just focusing on his music, there is a tense look on Sweet Mask's face. And darkness fills up the panel behind him. Shiryan does not stop his verbal assault. He further explains how the Bubbly group is using the title of hero as a means to move their idol careers forward. Shiryan even accuses Sweet Mask of being wishy-washy since he can't choose between being an idol and a hero. As they gang up on him, claiming he is a true half-assed fake, Sweet Mask is covered in a shadow. One of the men, who looks eerily like our idol hero, suggests that Sweet Mask is retired from being an idol if he loves hero work so much. And he also implies that they could easily take over for him if he chose to do that. At last, Sweet Mask is at his limit. They are underestimating what it means to be a hero and how much work is involved. Using it as a stepping stone is an insult to heroes and what they go through. But they seem unbothered by that and just want him to make a decision and get out of their way. With a blank expression, Sweet Mask removes his glasses while asking what the Bubbly Boys would do if he was a monster. And you know what, that is a lot more true than they might think. He continues the hypothetical, asking how they would deal with one appearing right in front of them. Without any hesitation, they say that they would beat Sweet Mask to a pulp, because it is 7-on-1, cracking their knuckles and loosening their ties. Still darkened by shadows, Sweet Mask looks down, chuckling at their stupidity. Another one of the Bubbly Boys says that they are not afraid of fighting him, and that he, called Fantas, does not mind it at all. It seems they have been wanting to confront him and his attitude, and now is the perfect chance for them to do so. And who knows why the director is still trying to break them up at this point. They haven't been listening for a while now. But suddenly, what seems like an earthquake of power overwhelms the Bubbly Boys, freaking them all out. All they can do is panic, trying to figure out the cause of the fear and pressure being exerted on all of them. At last, Sweet Mask lets them know that that feeling is their instincts warning them of danger. He even says they are far too different biologically, once again hinting at his more monstrous nature. His veins begin protruding from his arm and his muscles tense. But when he reveals the menacing look on his face with veins bulging from his skin, he tells them, "You don't have beauty." And in the past, he would have been using himself as the precedent. But now, he says, like his, meaning he thinks Saitama can compare to him in some ways. In the ways that matter at least, like overwhelming power. And with that, we get an epic shot of Saitama seemingly glowing, with his cape billowing and smoke clearing from around him. And so, he has certainly had an effect on Sweet Mask through that security footage. Not to mention Geno's talking him up. We move on next to the hero apartment complex and inside Saitama's room 104. He places down some chipped cups on the table that he tried to glue back together the best he could for his guests. With a cheerful smile, Saitama is glad for their timing since he just found these mugs in the wreckage. Today he is sporting a zip-up sweater with a big chunk of meat on it and the word Niku below it, which means meat in Japanese. The guests turn out to be the trio who have been trying to confront him for a while now, but got interrupted by King and other mishaps. Finally, we have their names revealed to us, though Chain and Toad was already shown during Garo's Human Monster arc. The sunglass beanie-wearing hero is called Forte, while the bigger, hairier man in the middle is named Butterfly DX. And the frog suit wearing one? Well, he's Chain and Toad, of course. Part of why they wanted to speak with Saitama besides him not greeting them is because their ranks are higher than his. So they expected some semblance of respect for that. Regardless, Saitama was willing to let them in, unaware of their annoyance. He only makes it worse when he says, "Who are you guys?" Forte takes immediate offense to that because he says, "You guys," which is really impolite in Japanese unless you're speaking to friends or people younger than you. So without missing a beat, he demands to know how old Saitama is for speaking that way. When Saitama tells Forte he's actually 25, the beanie hero cannot really argue since he's 24 himself. But then he does a 180 and says that age isn't what matters, but whoever moved in first. He's desperately making a weird senpai system through moving dates, which is kinda pathetic. To this, Saitama points out correctly that the apartment complex was only made available 2 weeks ago. However, Forte refuses to back down, saying it doesn't matter. He is still the senior for moving in first. While he complains that Saitama didn't greet them or bring snacks, we see that Rover and Black S are quietly sitting outside, hearing everything through the door. With the details out of the way, Saitama, smiling more than usual, says, "Nice to be acquainted with you," explaining what happened to him in recent weeks, such as losing his house and all the destruction. Then he reveals that King was the one who told him about this complex after he was pushed up to A class, so he moved in. At the mention of King, Forte starts stuttering again, though he's trying to put on a brave face. Chain and Toad removes his frog head, thanking Saitama for the tea. And I don't think I was alone in being shocked at the way he looked under there. I doubt anyone could have pictured a middle-aged man enjoying hiding his face beneath an amphibian's. Even someone as usually unaffected as Saitama can't stop himself from staring. And as soon as he is done sipping his tea, Chain and Toad puts his headgear back on. Saitama can't help but say out loud, "What the hell was that?" Butterfly DX speaks up for the Frogman instead, explaining that the man looks plain, so that is his way of standing out as a hero. And it works somewhat well with the kids. But Toad says just a bit. Saitama, who is always accused of being plain, finds this idea kind of dumb. But to be fair, Saitama's hero costume is pretty bold. It's just his face that makes him seem like a boring dude. But Butterfly DX, as confident as he stands, announces who he is as if it is obvious since he is so well known. But if you know Saitama, he does not follow any hero stuff, especially if he hasn't met them personally. He doesn't know anyone, basically. Butterfly continues his introduction, saying he moved to the hero apartments because it was easier for traveling. And as expected, Saitama tells him, "Nope, never heard of you." Forte begins to start his own introduction and how he uses earphones, but Butterfly is not done. He cuts in, surprised that Saitama has not heard of him. When he thinks seeing him on TV and the internet wasn't enough, he says that he will go change. Forte just points out that Butterfly is an attention whore, not even bothered he was cut off. When Butterfly DX returns, well, let's just say Saitama can't accuse him of having a plain costume or ideas. He's dressed in butterfly wings, an antenna, bikini-looking underwear, and high heels. Proud of his outfit, Butterfly explains how there has been a lot of footage of him flying around from roof to roof in it. Saitama, master of putting people down unintentionally, admits that for the last few years, he didn't have anything to watch besides weather and disaster channels. And if that wasn't enough, Saitama can't help but be shocked by how hairy Butterfly is, warning him not to shed anywhere. So yeah, Saitama's pretty much treating this man like a dog, which is pretty cold. Forte takes that moment to finally get his introduction out and explains that he uses music to battle with his rhythm. He also tries to show off his popularity, saying young people think he looks cool. He also adds that he's been in a fashion magazine, but tries to play it off as something that is not important to him. Yeah, sure. Saitama just stares silently, and he drops another bomb of an insult. Isn't working up a rhythm every time you fight really pointless? The panel really works to emphasize just how much effect these insults have, as they look like a small island floating in an endless sea of white. But enough is enough. Forte explodes with rage, shouting, "You and me, Baldy, outside, right now!" But we don't get to experience that fight, because it jumps instead to the increasingly tense relationship between Bubbly Boys and Sweet Mask. Because they're still shivering from fear, Chirion offers his group members some tea to warm them up. Meanwhile, Sweet Mask turns his back to them coldly. Despite all this, the director thinks he can spin this rivalry in a way to increase sales all around. And of course he would think that. So I guess we'll just have to wait to see who Fubuki is going to visit with her gang, as well as Saitama's predictable battle with Forte, if there even is one, next chapter. As always, I am Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.